Hello, everybody. Welcome to my channel. I'm back again with this man who shares these stories that people, women, even I think a few men, they write into him to tell their secrets and everything. And he talks about, men being exposed for being on the DL. And look, this woman wrote him and said, "A voodoo priestess exposed my DL husband." And he says that the ending will shock you, the ending of this. So, let's sit back and listen to this. Also, I'm going to put his TikTok as the first comment. He does have a YouTube channel as well. If I can find that, again, which I probably can, I will put that also as the first comment. So here we go again with the DL. These are very interesting stories right here. These are true stories. And she says that a voodoo priestess is the one who exposed my husband for being on the down low.
I found out my husband was DL. And yes, as a woman, I am going to remain by his side. I'm going to be with him. I'm going to love him because that's what a good woman does. That's what a wife is supposed to do. I know that this may disappoint a lot of women. I know that my story is very untraditional. The circumstances in which I found out my husband was DL was very scandalous, and it did result in the death of someone. However, I'm ready to tell my story because I still think that my story can empower women just as well. Here it goes. My story starts 12 years ago, back when I was in my senior year of high school. There was a gentleman I had been attracted to since my freshman year. He was very charismatic, very athletic. He was a jock. By all means, he was sexy from the top of his head to the bottom of his feet. This man had it going on. In addition to being a captain of the football team, the young man was also an honor student. I had to have him. It took me a long time to get his attention. Nothing I did, from the short skirts that I wear, the belly top showing, my perfectly sculptured, beautiful, womanly shape. It just did not seem to grasp his attention at first. So when that didn't get his attention, I decided to take a more aggressive approach in our senior year of high school. I told him, "What the hell is wrong with you? I've been shooting my shot at you. I've been throwing little subtle hints, you're not getting it." To which he smirked, he laughed it off. And the fact that he smirked at me kind of enraged me a little bit. So I told him, I said, if you don't take heed to my advances, I'm going to beat up every female I see you talking to. And that I did. Anytime I saw a female in his face, anytime I saw a female flirting with him, I would run her away. I would get violent. I would push her. I would bump into her. I would start a fight with her. And believe it or not, as crazy as this may sound, this eventually worked. It wore him down. It won him over. He felt like I was a down chick. He felt like, if I would go that hard for him, I was the woman of his dreams and I was the woman that he was meant to be with. So our story starts there. And we started off, by all accounts, a very loving couple. We had so much in common. We were both athletic. We were both ambitious. We both went to school. And we both, when we left college, we bought a home together. And we settled into our perfect life. That is, until life just wasn't so perfect anymore. See, soon after college, my fiance proposed to me. I happily accepted. And, I thought we were going to just be the perfect couple. However, I noticed that my fiance stopped throwing it down in the bedroom. That's always a telltale sign that something's going on with your man when he stops throwing it down in the bedroom. He also had kind of got distant, a little cold at me at times or whatever. While he was still very loving, he just seemed distant, like he was preoccupied or like he had a lot on his plate. So I decided to confide in my gay best friend. What I loved about my gay best friend who I worked with was he was very spiritual. He was into sort of black magic. He was one of those ones that had these spiritual crystals. He would charge them at night if it was a full moon. He believed in, blowing cinnamon into the household to bring in prosperity. He was one of those ones. He was a strict vegan. He didn't put meat in his body because he felt like meat symbolized death. And you don't put death into your body if you want to live a full, fruitful life. So, I loved him for those things. Sometimes I thought it was a bit extreme, but I loved him but I loved him nonetheless. So I was confiding and I was telling him what's going on. So he told me he was going to meditate on it and he would get back to me. Well, a couple of days later, my gay best friend came to me and he said to me that he was not strong enough in his craft to, predict what was going on with my situation. He did, however, refer me to somebody. It was a voodoo priestess in town. That's where he had picked up a lot of his crafts and his tricks from. So he told me that I should go see her. So I'm not really the person that's spiritual into black magic and voodoo. I think it's a bunch of hocus pocus mess that people make up. But he was very adamant that this woman had helped him and had helped a lot of people get through some very tough situations. I Googled this woman, I read the reviews, and by all accounts, this woman had a lot of, testimonies from people that, they said that her help really changed their life. So I decided, what the hell, I would give her a try. I was blown away a few days later when I had met with this lady that my gay best friend had told me about. This woman just seemed odd. She was black just like me, but she was pale. She just seemed, y'all, it was something about her that just seemed out of this world. She just didn't seem like a human being that was of this world. It was just something surreal about her. I cannot put my hand on it. But anyway, this woman told me that a dark spirit was attached to me. And the reason that this dark spirit was attached to me was because my soon-to-be husband, my fiance, was indeed having an affair on me. She said in order to get this spirit detached from me, I had to bring the affair to the forefront. I had to have the affair exposed. However, she said that she did not recommend that I do it. She said because I had a choice. I could detach this dark energy from me. However, it would cause the death of someone. She was not clear on who would die in the process. Again, where the average person would have been terrified out their mind, I thought it was a bunch of hocus pocus. Y'all, I really didn't believe it, but I decided to humor this woman. She had told me that my fiance was having an affair on me. I wanted to know why the man of my dreams would betray me like this if what this strange woman in front of me was saying was true. So I humored her. She gave me a vial. It was a potion. She said that this potion was known to make a man weak. It was known to make him vulnerable. In a man's weak and vulnerable state, he will do things that's out of character for him, which would help to expose the affair. And she also gave me a bag of herbs. She told me to put the herbs under the mattress. She said because the herbs would draw the person who he was having an affair with much closer to me. Again, I thought it was a bunch of hocus pocus, decided to just entertain it and see what came of it. 2 weeks later, I was with my girlfriends on our annual girls trip. Every year, we would rent an Airbnb in another state. We would forget about our men. We would forget about our jobs. We would just let our hair down and have fun. And while initially I was having fun, you all, something came over me. Something just didn't feel right. I felt like I needed to be at home. Y'all, and like I said, it came out of nowhere. It was like this, I just started feeling anxious. I started getting sweaty. I just was not enjoying the trip anymore. So without even telling my girlfriends, you all, I packed my things while they were asleep and I left and got on the first plane smoking back to my hometown. You all, I get back home. I enter my home. And the sight I saw in front of me when I got to my bedroom still sickens me to my stomach. My husband was on top of the neighbor down the street, giving it to him. This was a man. And this was not a gay man. This man was married with children, just like, my soon-to-be husband was going to marry me. And, we were going to live a life and have children. We had been to this man's home. He had invited us to barbecues. We had this man and his wife and children in our home. I could not believe my husband had betrayed me like this. And I couldn't believe he did it with somebody so close to us. But as I said earlier, I had worked too hard for this relationship, and I was not going to lose my man, the man of my dreams, to another man. I demanded that he end this affair, and he better not ever speak to that neighbor again, or there will be consequences behind it. Surprisingly, my husband readily agreed, and he never spoke to the neighbor again. We eventually got married, and we started to live a happy and blissful life. Well, 2 years later, the man who my husband had had an affair with, apparently he never got over my husband. He was in love with him. This, time that they had carried on this affair had made a deep impact on his life, and he eventually took his own life as a result of, my husband cutting off the affair with him. I tell this story because a lot of women will think that I'm stupid, for marrying my husband after, catching him having an affair with, no, and not just having any affair, having an affair with another man. But as I said, I'm a firm believer that a woman should cleave to her man. A woman should submit herself to her man. And I was not going to lose the man that I had worked so hard to get, to any, body, let alone another man. So this is my story. Uncle Larry, I want to thank you for telling my story, and I hope that this, does help some woman. To the young lady in Texas that sent me this story, I just want to say I take my hat off to you, because I don't know too many women in your situation that would stay.
Okay, so there is a few things to unpack. Okay, she says she's not giving up. She's not leaving her man, her husband. She fought too hard to have him. So from what he said, okay, is that he was very good looking. He is very good looking. This was in high school. She wanted to have him by any means necessary. She said that he was fine and educated. And she told him, "Why aren't you paying me any attention? I'm dressing like this. Why don't you want me?" And that she would put hands on women that he was talking to. And that's what she did. So she was, in my opinion, she was the perfect beard. She's the perfect cover because you're chasing him down. He didn't pursue you. You pursued him constantly and basically bullied him into being with you, even though he did choose. He did choose, but you were aggressive. You wouldn't stop until you could have him. And in his mind, your man was always into men. You just don't turn into wanting to be on top of a man, up in a man's bussy overnight. Okay? He was already into men. And that's why he probably wasn't paying her any attention. Now he could be bisexual and she just wasn't his physical type. He wasn't interested in her. But she didn't take no for an answer, even though he still chose. And let's say he's not bisexual. He's just straight up on the down low. So here you have this desperate woman who wants to be with him by any means and who has proven, "I will beat up all the girls just to have you," a fool. And he said, "This is a perfect beard. This is a perfect cover." Okay, I found her. So they get engaged. He marries her and all this other stuff. And it's interesting about going to the Voodoo Priestess type of thing. I don't know. Let me know in the chat. Are any of you down to go to Louisiana and stuff and go to a Voodoo Priestess? Is that something that a lot of you would do? Now, I'm not down to go to the Voodoo Priestess. I remember that movie Eve's Bayou. Things could go wrong. I don't mess with that type of stuff, but I can tell you, well, that's what she did. She went to the Voodoo Priestess, but she had an intuition. A lot of women have that. She already noticed that things were wrong with her man. And it's true. When you have a man and he's not having sex with you, something is going on. If he comes home and he immediately takes a shower, as soon as he comes home, and that was never his routine, he's washing someone else off of him. And if he didn't wash at their house, that's something. If you notice that he's buying a bunch of new clothing, but he doesn't wear it with you, or he's staying out later, or he's not calling, or just things have changed, okay? Sometimes a lot of men might have a pattern, not all the time. So she comes home and she sees her man pounding another man from down the street to smithereens. Okay? I would never get over seeing something like that. There's no way that I would still fight to be in a relationship seeing my man busting another man down. And then she said, "But he's not gay. He has a wife and kids." It's like, lady, are you slow? He's on the down low. The neighbor's on the down low, and your husband is on the down low. How did they well, they knew each other. She says that, they know each other. They have certain signs and signals that they do to let each other know that they're on the down low. I remember that guy that wrote that book talked about it, and something happened and they ended up sleeping with each other, and who knows how long it was going on, okay? In their home, endangering her health and everything. But she said that I'm not losing my man. She says, I believe a woman is supposed to stand by her man, and I'm not losing all I put work into. Oh no, this is since high school, baby. I chased that man down. I beat up women for him. This man is too damn fine. And look, she's probably thinking so many women ain't got a man. I can't lose my man to another man. You can't compete. You can't compete if he's into the pussy of other men. He's going to cheat on her again, and it might not be with the neighbor. And she said that he took his life after this happened, which is terrible. I mean, it's crazy. And if she thinks that her DL or bisexual husband is not going to go up the pussy of another man, she's out of her damn mind. But she's willing to accept it because she doesn't want to lose what she felt like she has poured and invested so much into. This man is fine and educated, and I'm not losing my damn man. We've been together since high school. So you mean to tell me you walked in on your man pounding another man to sliverines like he do you, and you okay with that? She said that she can't even get it out her mind seeing her man in that position. But how do you sleep with him every night? How? And she did. Like, how do you get over seeing something like that and then saying, oh, well, I believe that a woman is supposed to stand by her man, like old school tradition? I'm not doing that over with no with my man was up in another man? Like, are you crazy? Because I know that it won't stop. It won't stop. He's going to do it again. And with the statistics that we see, you have lost your mind trying to hold on to this man. Okay, that man is probably either straight up into men, or he was always just secretly bisexual. Personally, I have a feeling that he was always just into men, but she was a perfect beard. She's a perfect beard. She's desperate and she doesn't want to lose him by any means. So she was the perfect choice to be a beard. Sad to say, but it's true. So that is it for this video. I want to know, what do you think about what you just heard? And if you had any inklings that you thought your man was stepping out on you, would you go to a voodoo priestess? Seriously, let us know what you would do. I mean, if you were with your high school sweetheart and he's a dime piece, he's laying it down in the bedroom, he wiped you up, but you come home and find your man on top of another man slamming away, would you be okay going back to him? And you're like, I can't lose this. I can't lose my man like this. Would you honestly believe that your man would stay faithful to you and would never step out on you with another man? And would you really believe that he truly likes women? Like, would you believe that? So let us know what you think and what would you do again in that type of situation. You all take care. Please like, share, and subscribe. I'll talk to you all later. Bye.